Hello rail fans, got a short video here of what we got accomplished over the weekend. Didn't do a whole lot, working under some quarantine rules with COVID right now, so stayed in the truck when we did go out, but got set up on Saturday morning for our first train, and as the GoPro has liked to do to me a lot recently, it died as soon as the train came by. So that was about all we saw on Saturday. Sunday morning didn't look like it was going to get off to much better of a start. Went to go to the National Cemetery and saw this train already coming northbound. So hightailed it up to the Amki depot, and if I hadn't gotten stopped at that last red light, would have been set up in plenty of time. But as it was, we managed to get at least a little bit of the locomotive and then most of the trailing end of this train. This is Q512, a manifest train going from Radnor Yard in Nashville up to Avon, Indiana. So we'll sit here at Amki Depot, watch this train roll by, and then we'll head back a little bit south to the cemetery and resume our train watching activities from there. And so now here we are back at the Nashville National Cemetery. This is just a short time later. Q647 came down the line. Q647 is a manifest train that comes from the Clearing Yard in Chicago, Illinois, all the way down to Rice Yard in Waycross, Georgia. He's moving a little bit slowly as he had just started up at Eakin here, just north of me. He had been sitting there for a little bit of congestion out on the tracks this morning. There was a coal train parked at Maplewood, headed south, that had sat there for quite some time, and they were slowly working a few trains around it. There's a lot of radio chatter back and forth with a W101 and a crew off of another train that they were trying to move to that one. Sounded like quite a bit of argument going on, although from my vantage point, so W101 was a train coming in off the Chattanooga sub. And so from where I sit up north of the city, I can hear the dispatcher, but all I get's a one-way conversation. So could definitely tell that there was a struggle as far as getting that crew to taxi back to 101 and get on it. Finally, the dispatcher said that the chief was ordering them to do it and wasn't going to talk about it anymore. And it appeared that they finally decided to go and do that. So a lot of conversation going on around that. Other than that, the radio was a bit quiet for the section of track that I was at. So again, as I've mentioned in some videos before, I'd really like to be able to get you guys some insight to some of that audio I hear. Unfortunately, normally by the time I hear the conversation going on, unless there's a train rolling by that I'm in the middle of videoing, I don't really have the time to get anything recorded either on my phone or through the camera. And so while sitting at the tracks today after that conversation, I finally decided that I wasn't going to have any more missed conversation if I could help it. So got on Amazon and I've ordered up a Zoom H4n audio recorder that I'm going to try to loop into the scanner and have it on voice detector. So that anytime there's output from the scanner, it should latch on and record that, and then we'll be able to hopefully integrate that into these videos moving forward. So got a little bit of work to do to get it set up. I'm going to have to run a speaker from it. I'll probably run a feed from the scanner directly to the recorder and then a speaker out the recorder so that I can hear while I'm live on the ground what's coming. So hopefully future videos will have a little more clear audio for you guys to be able to listen to. I did find interesting at the rear of this train were a lot of intermodal empty racks, which normally you don't see on a manifest train. But there were several of these that had stickers on them about returning to the home shops for repair. So all of these cars evidently had some sort of issue with them. Was a lot of Florida East Coast I saw, and a couple others, so they must be on their way home. So this is Q208, which is a intermodal and auto rack train that runs from Baldwin, Florida up to Louisville, Kentucky. So this is a new vantage point. It's not one you've seen previously in any of our videos. This is from Centerpoint Road in Hendersonville, Tennessee. So while I was sitting at the cemetery, as I mentioned earlier, I hear a lot of one-way audio traffic. Was picking up a little bit of a signal from this train itself though, so heard some conversation with dispatch back and forth, and also with a high rail truck that was down from Bowling Green doing its track inspection on the main line this morning. So Q208 evidently had an issue with its DPU unit. I heard on the radio a lot of talk about pulling the train apart and putting it back together. I assumed that they were stopped with a broken coupler. I found out later from a Facebook contact friend, Augustin, who lives off the main line up in Gallatin, that he was able to find out from a friend of his that what actually happened was that the DPU unit was too close to the front of the train and was causing issues, and so they actually had to separate the train in a siding right there on the main line and move that DPU unit about 3,000 feet further back into the train before then resuming. The high rail truck that came into the conversation asked if there was anything he could do to assist, but by then they'd already put the train back together, and so they utilized him to go around off of Myatt Drive and pick up the conductor and bring him all the way around to center point. So I was able to get to center point before they arrived, and so was set up with the camera. They arrived, conductor got on a train, and they took off for Louisville. And we're getting ready to come up here on that cut in between the intermodal units and the auto rack. So this is where the DPU would normally be on this train. So I don't know if that's where it was coming out of Florida, and if changes were made to the makeup of the train at Radnor and pulled some intermodal out or added auto racks. I'm really not sure, but I'm guessing that that's where that locomotive was on this train when it left Radnor and experienced its problems after it got onto the mainline subdivision. And so we're going to see that DPU here in a minute. It's going to be further back in the middle of these auto racks, and then the train will finish out with all auto rack units. As you can tell, it's a really noisy track. Something maybe just a bit off with the track alignment here at the crossing. Lots of very noisy sounds here. So again, want to give a shout out to Augustin. Thank him for getting me that complete story. We've been bouncing things off of each other quite a bit here lately. Him giving me heads up about trains coming south, and me giving him heads up about trains coming north. So works out really good for both of us, and hopefully we can keep that friendship going. So from there, it was back to the cemetery and caught a glimpse of Q500. GoPro did the same thing to me again that it did Saturday. A little different flavor, but this is all I caught of that. So as soon as I saw that leading unit on Q500, I knew that I wanted to catch up to it, so I hightailed it north to Williams Avenue, and it had stopped just short of that crossing to wait for Q029. And so what you're seeing here is that Q029 making its southbound run from Chicago, Illinois' 59th Street Yard down to Fairburn, Georgia. So the DPU on Q029 this day is going to be CSX 8904. CSX 8904 is an ST70AH that was delivered in 2019 to the railroad. So always neat to see a updated and fresh locomotive out on the line. Still looks pretty pristine. So we're going to see that come by here in just a second, and then we'll watch a few more cars come before we get to the main attraction on Q500. So Q500's now coming north, and to me, this is the main attraction of the weekend. It's going to be led up by CSX 7230, which the 7200 series are the rebuilt AC4400s that they've converted over and are now CM44AHs. I can't find any information online about 7230, so I'm not sure exactly when this one got completed. But by the look of it, I'd say it was very, very recently. So we'll let this roll by and we'll talk a little bit more about this train. So Q500 is a daily manifest train that goes from Radnor Yard up to Bar Yard in Chicago. This is that same train we briefly caught a glimpse of down at the National Cemetery. I've mentioned a couple times in this video what my GoPro's been doing to me. So yesterday, the Saturday, the very first image on this video, what happened was that I'd left the GoPro in the truck for the majority of the week, sitting out in the garage, and so I know that obviously cold affects batteries just like heat does. But when I threw it out on the tripod, it told me that it had 40% left. When I heard the train coming, I looked out and saw it had 37% left. I turned it on to start recording, and as soon as the nose of the locomotive got there, as you saw it shut off, I looked over, it said battery at 0%. And so obviously it wasn't giving me a very accurate description of where that battery was. Today, when we saw Q500 down at the cemetery, nothing battery related, but when I went to turn the camera on, instead of being in video mode, it started doing the rapid fire pulse shots, and so wasn't able to get video there. Glad we caught up to it and got ahead of it at Williams. A little bit better of a shot here, was able to get out and get some good still pictures too. So we'll watch 500 continue to roll by to the north, and that'll be it for this weekend. Called it a day early, came on back to the house, got a lot of things done, worked on the website a little bit. For those who are interested, I've recently updated on the website and now have a listing of what I think are my top 12 places in Nashville to watch trains. And you know, there's hundreds of places to watch trains from, and nobody's going to agree on what the top are. These are, for me, just 12 I picked. You know, easy access to parking, not a long walk. Certainly there are much more pleasing places to watch trains from, much more you know, spectacular viewing points that you may have to hike to or walk to or whatever. But for this list, I just took a 25-mile radius around Kane Avenue and tried to get at least one on each of the subdivisions leaving town, and threw up the list. So a lot of spots that you normally see filming at on this channel, you'll see on this top 12 list. So if you're new to the area, or if you know you normally only rail fan one or two areas and you're looking for somewhere different to go ahead and give it a check. If you got any questions, reach out to me on any of the social media channels or comment on the video. But check it out at rustyboxcar.com. There's a Railfan Sites link up at the top. Click on that and it'll take you to it. Thanks for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, click on the thumbs up below to give us a like. Also, please click on the Rusty Boxcar logo on the right side of the screen to get a subscription to the channel. And send us a comment. Really enjoy reading all your comments, and I try to respond to each one of them. Thanks, and have a nice day.